The views expressed by the hosts are their own and don't necessarily reflect the views of Caswells Shooting Range, even though one of the hosts is an owner of Caswells. And now, overlooking Phoenix and live from the Double Wide Network Towers, it's Caswells Shooting Show. Caswells Shooting Range is Arizona's premier indoor and air-conditioned shooting range, plus the ultimate source for using and owning guns. And now, with an eye always on safety, it's time to pull the trigger with your hosts of Caswells Shooting Show, a couple of loose cannons, Paul Abella and Carol Ann Bergeson.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. when the jingle says with an eye always on safety, does that not include the drive here?
I think that's just at the range. I don't think that includes your driver's license.
That's probably best, actually.
Did you drive today?
I did.
Oh, did you kiss the ground when you got out of the car?
No, because he drives like I do, so I don't even pay attention.
No.
We just talk, and most of the time I'm like with my head in my hand thinking about all of the stuff that I did not get done before we left and crying about it on the way here. And, we have the weekend and Monday, and he's very positive. And Monday's another day, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, my God.
At 49 years old and looking like this every day, I wake up to a result. You know, what can I say? I had my blood pressure. They did my blood pressure the other day. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. You got normal, then you got high, then you got really high, then spectacular, then dead, then me.
So then you got Paul.
Yeah.
You're at the week before Guntoberfest trying to get everything stocked and all that.
No, that's before that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. But we do have someone else sitting in the chair again today, the third chair. The man with the awesome sleeve of tattoos.
One of my favorite people in the whole world.
Glad to be here again.
Bridger
I
Kimball.
think I'll be here next week, too.
Councilman Kimball.
Thanks for that.
Have you started hashtagging that?
No, not yet.
That would be awesome.
It's when I campaign for re-election.
Okay. I like it.
Wait, does that mean we can interview you?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I should look forward to that.
Actually,
I'll start writing notes immediately.
No, I'm scared. Some of the questions you ask people, huh?
Do you have an opponent you're running against?
Not yet.
Not yet?
2016.
If you do, you should have the debates here.
We could set that up for sure. I would like to.
Most
Definitely.
Debates are fun.
Put you guys at other ends of the table and just call whoever you want to come in and film it. I think that'd be awesome.
I like it.
We could do it armed.
It's a done deal.
You
want to do it armed?
Armed, yeah, absolutely. It's a shooting show, isn't it?
Okay.
We could do it with the plexiglass thing.
Oh, the quick draw?
Yeah.
You want to do it? I should never have told him about that.
We saw that.
Awesome.
They had that at the Ahwatukee Chambers event, right?
Very cool.
That thing was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you and your opponent, Bridger, in 2016 with the plexiglass and guns, that'd be very cool. We could
It depends on who it would be, but I'm pretty sure I'd win that one.
Okay.
I'd go for that, yeah.
I
could
would say
win
so.
some money. Yeah.
I'd put my money on Bridger.
I would anyway.
Yeah.
Any particular reason?
He's my boss.
He's amazing.
Okay.
I've been around guns and in the firearms
Forever.
industry for 14 years. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I go with
I'll
that.
go with that.
Okay.
That's what
I still haven't seen you shoot at all.
Probably
Paul.
best. That's most likely best. See that wall there?
But
Yeah.
Sometimes I can hit it now.
It's a good laugh, at least. Sorry.
No, it is. See, if I gave Bridger my AR-15, I've got an AR-15, right?
Okay.
You could zero the sights in, 3 rounds? 20 minutes?
Yeah.
3 to 10 rounds, probably.
Yeah, it took me about 50 rounds in 3 hours. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
because you didn't grow up around firearms. Any chance you get
Correct.
to be on range, you're just shooting to shoot and enjoying it.
Yeah, or welding.
Does he giggle? Like when he gets a new gun or he tries a new firearm?
Yes.
So anytime he puts one downrange, you hear
Yeah, pretty much.
a little bit out of him? Okay.
Oh, then it's he does like the little, that. See?
He dances a jig in the Macarena?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting combination.
Which I am doing right now because I have 3 guns on order for me that should be here in about a week.
For you personally?
Yes.
It's got to have some perks you guys own in the gun shop
Oh
like
my
that.
God, I'm so
Just
excited.
a few.
It's strange, actually, because you order the 3 guns or 4 guns that you want or the gun that you always wanted. You get it, and 2 weeks later you've shot it and you've had your fill and fun with it, and you put it on the wall and sell it and order a couple more.
That's not me.
That's not you?
That's him. And
Okay.
that's Bridger and my husband for sure. They order guns, shoot it once, flip it, and on to the next thing. That and cars, same thing.
You know what? That's okay, because I was going to say it's the same thing as cars.
Yep.
You find something you get interested in, you have your fun with, and you let it go.
Absolutely.
I believe Bo's had, in the 4 years that I've known him, probably 6 different vehicles other than his daily driver.
Right? And so we're talking about 600 horsepower Z06s, like stuff that you stomp on it at 80 miles an hour and it goes sideways.
Let me know when he brings them by the shop.
Yeah.
I'll come drool that day.
He has like an 18-month to 2-year window where he starts to get fidgety and he needs to swap out the vehicle for something else.
Do you see that with your son? With his toys?
Yes.
Is he taking after dad?
Oh, absolutely. And he is a car, truck fanatic, my son. We've tried to expose him to everything, right? Coloring and blocks. And his thing is trains, cars, and trucks. And he's only 2, and he's playing with toys that are 8 for ages 5 and up. And
That's
it's
awesome.
ridiculous. You'll see this weekend.
We got to start comparing notes. My daughter freaked me out
Why?
twice in the last 3 days.
Yeah?
Because she doesn't like being burped over the shoulder. And she turned 1 month on Monday.
Congrats.
Wow.
Thank you.
Is it
So-
really a month?
It has. It really has.
God.
Already?
And so she likes the sit-up way of burping.
Yeah.
And I know we got to get going on to our subject, so I have to share this.
Please.
She likes sitting up, burping her that way, and I realized I turned to talk to my wife, and I realized I have my hand supporting her head. I don't feel it. And I don't feel her hitting my burping hand either. And I'm freaking out, and I look down. She's sitting up, holding herself up, looking around, trying to figure out what's going on, looking for all the sights and sounds. And then the day after, I realized I didn't feel her laying down on my chest. She woke up from her nap and did a perfect push-up and was holding herself up, trying to crawl around and look at where she's going at a month.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. She's developing greatly, but that just means she's taking after me, and I'm in for it. I'm screwed.
You're going to have a stunt daughter. She's going to be blasted out of cannons and doing the Evel Knievel. I'm going to jump over the Grand Canyon and with a rocket vehicle, and it's going to be fantastic.
I hope we do this show for about 10 years so we can watch you grow
Yes.
old really quickly.
I really hope that it goes for longer than 10 years, but let's hope I don't grow old. And on that note, you guys have a special guest today.
Yeah, I know.
We do.
Well, now I have images of my son going to being a spectacular military star and going to sniper school and all this, and dating your daughter, who's going to be a stunt woman. It's going to be fantastic.
We have a lot to talk about when this show's over. You realize that we have a lot to talk about? You're the first person to say dating your daughter to me. You know that, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay?
He is going to be an incredible human being. He is.
Okay.
I'm going to make sure of it.
Okay. Okay.
A
I'm going to leave that
gentleman.
lingering out there.
Gentleman.
I'm going to leave that
all
lingering out
the
there.
way.
I believe it.
That's a whole new look I've never seen before.
On me?
Of disbelief.
You haven't seen me doing stunt work or spinning guns. So, who's the name of your guest today?
It's a Dr. Steve Chestnut, no less.
And his title?
And he is the Maricopa Unified School District Superintendent. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Fantastic, I got it right. That's so cool.
Doctor. He's got a PhD, a doctorate.
He has.
Okay, that's awesome.
Brighter than me.
And what are you guys going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about weaponry and schools and firearms and
Safety of
safety
students.
around kids around firearms, so on and so forth. School safety.
That's a
All
very
sorts of things.
interesting topic because
It
I
is.
hear a lot of the rumor mill. I'm not saying that my wife's a teacher, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying I've heard a lot of rumors from teachers on that. A lot of mixed reviews and feelings.
There's a ton of. It's a very sensitive subject. There's a ton of controversy surrounding it, whether or not teachers should be able to carry in school, and what does that mean? And you're around kids, and I have I'm not going to name names. We're going to get the doctor on the phone, but we know a couple of teachers, and some of them I've helped train in their own personal lives for shooting, and they are at risk. I just talked to one of them a couple of days ago, and she said, we were in lockdown again, and I've got 15 first graders in here screaming and crying because all the doors are locked and these people are running around jeopardizing their safety around campus. And
It doesn't seem to be that unusual. I hear that
No.
fairly regularly on the radio.
I would never have thought that. It's not something that we really pay attention to because we have my son isn't in school at that age yet.
Yeah.
So I think as a parent, those are all new things that you become terrified about. As they get older and get into new things. But we know several teachers, and this is always an interesting topic to discuss. And so I'm hoping that the superintendent will be able to shed some light and his own opinion and some of the things that are going on in Maricopa and help some of the listeners be educated, be more educated about it.
Absolutely.
Well, if you guys are ready to have him, he's here.
Wonderful.
Always ready.
Are you there, Doctor?
Yes, I am.
You are on the line with Caswells Shooting Show.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Steve, it's Bridger. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Thanks for being here today.
No problem.
We got several topics of conversation. We got Paul Abella and Carol Ann Bergeson.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to have Paul start out with a couple questions that he has, and maybe before that we get just a little bit of your background and how long you've been with Maricopa Unified School District and your background in school systems before then, and then we'll get on with the topics.
Sure, yeah. This is my third year as superintendent in Maricopa Unified School District, and prior to that, I was a career educator in the state of Washington for about 35 years, and I was a former high school teacher and coach, athletic director, superintendent for about 21 years up there in the state of Washington in 3 different districts, and greatly enjoying the great state of Arizona.
Well, we're happy to have you down here. You have such a well-rounded level of experience. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
That is an impressive resume. It's far more impressive than mine, believe me. That's not hard. So, is it all right to call you Steve?
Yes, please call me Steve.
Fantastic. So, straight in with the difficult questions, as I always do. So, what's your opinion on teachers being armed and resource officers within schools to look out in case anything happens within a school, as we unfortunately have seen in the last few years?
Yes, that's an interesting thing about my career in school administration. When I first became an assistant principal and then a principal, it was pretty rare to have commissioned police officers in schools, and now that's pretty much standard practice to have them full-time in secondary schools across the nation. That was certainly the case in the state of Washington over the years throughout my career, and of course it's the same way in the state of Arizona. So we're very pleased to have 3 commissioned officers in Maricopa Unified School District. We have one at the high school and one at each of our 2 middle schools, and so I think that's very important. I think it's an important ingredient in school safety, and it's a great help to our assistant principals, and really helps set the tone for school safety in our schools.
And Steve, the resource officers at your schools, they interact with students, right? They're not just there to have a presence, but they actually interact with students to possibly prevent somebody from making a bad choice and bringing a gun to school or something like of that matter, right?
Yes, and that's really, I think, over the years become the model for school resource officers. I think we see the policemen around town, and they're in their squad cars, and you don't have much interaction with them. I mean, you might, but generally not. But I think the model has become for school resource officers. They know to be effective, they have to be out and about with the kids. They have to be out there before school, after school, at lunch, walking the hallways, talking to kids, and being visible. And not only that, but getting as many names as possible and having good positive interactions. And the great thing about that is that then as they build that rapport with students, the students will come and talk to them if there's something they're concerned about or a safety issue and that kind of thing. We've seen that happen. I've seen that happen many times in my career over the years.
So just if you can help me, how do you define a school resource officer? Because someone without kids and is new to the country, I've never heard of one before. Is it a policeman? Is it a posse member? Is it how is that defined?
Yeah, almost always it means a commissioned police officer that is an employee of the local police department, but is assigned to the school district. And sometimes the school district just pays for that service, for 9 months of the school year. Sometimes there's a grant involved, but that's the way it works in our district. And all 3 of those officers, their full-time job during the school year is with our school district, and then they do other duties as assigned in the in the summer months.
And I never would have thought of the angle of the officer being approachable and having a relationship with the students. And, that, obviously is the most advantageous to be able to do his job properly. But that's not something that I would normally think of. Actually, years ago when we started, hearing about metal detectors being put at the front doors of inner city schools, I'm from the East Coast, so we heard about this all the time in New York City. And even then, it just blew me away. Now to have a town like Maricopa, which has, 35,000 people there, 50,000 people, sorry. To have, to me, that's like an urban setting where, is that something that's really necessary? And I think absolutely, yes, it is necessary. But for most people, I don't think that it's thought of on such a critical level. This is supposed to be, out in the country, and people are, there's not a lot, you would think that there's not a lot going on. And I'm not talking about like hillbillies or anything like that, which is supposed to be a nice, quiet bedroom community in a town where, it's just a nice place to be. And you think about having a commissioned officer at a school or, walking the playgrounds and stuff like that. And we're not talking about high school or college campuses. We're even talking about middle school and elementary schools. That I think it's a wonderful thing, but it's scary for me as a new parent to say, I'm glad that this person is there, but my God, why does he have to be there? That's a very scary thing for me.
Yeah, I understand that, and certainly I think it took me a while to get used to as an administrator, 20 years ago when this became more common. And, it is a nice, quiet community out here, but, still school safety's got to be our number one thing. The thing that's kind of interesting is that for many years as superintendent, you pretty much always have your back-to-school meeting with all the teachers in the auditorium, and you talk about things for the school year. And, for the last 20 years, I've told my staff that, our number one job is not teaching reading, writing, math, science, social studies. Our number one job is to make sure our classrooms and our schools and our playgrounds are safe. And that really is truly our number one priority, because we know that kids can't learn if they don't feel safe.
Sure.
And moms and dads aren't going to feel good about sending their kids to school if they don't feel safe about the school. So safety is so crucial, and it really starts at a low level, right? It starts with name-calling. It starts with bullying. It starts with those kinds of things that we really need to prevent beginning at a very young age to create that culture that we want.
So, I think this might be an interesting segue, and I hope I'm not jumping around too much, but how do you handle that with the parents, making them feel comfortable that there's an armed police officer in the school?
Well, I think that that practice has been around so long, really, at least in the state of Washington, and as I understand it, in the state of Arizona, even though this is only my third year here, high schools of any size, it's been very common for a number of years to have a commissioned officer pretty much full-time at schools of any size. Okay. And so I think that we even have parents who had that experience, when they were in high school. So we're almost on the second generation of this. So
probably,
I think, it's not as uncommon as it once was, and I think it's become an expectation, and I think it does give people that level of comfort. And it's certainly not the only answer, right? We still work very hard on school safety and our emergency response plan, our drills, and those kinds of things. We work on constantly on civility issues and bullying. We work constantly on structuring our recesses and giving kids that positive place to be so that we don't have problems with school safety. So there's a lot more to it than just school safety, school resource officers, but that is part of the program.
Sure.
And, Steve, you had mentioned that there's probably parents out there that went to schools that had school resource officers. And I went to school, and I'm a native Arizonan, and I went to Mountain Point High School, and we had a school resource officer, and everybody knew who that individual was, and that they could go to that guy with a problem and report something that shouldn't be happening. And it's something that I'm accustomed to, and it's something that I see as necessary going forward. And when you talk about a school resource officer, you're not just talking about an officer inside the school. You're talking about a police car out front. So somebody that potentially wants to do really bad things to some children or good innocent people goes to a school and sees a police car out front and knows that there's an armed officer inside patrolling the school, they probably would think twice about going into that school. I think it's preventative, and it's something that I believe is necessary in pretty much as many schools as we could get officers into that monies allow.
Well, and on to dovetail off of that, how, the big topic right now is actually arming teachers, right? So, you have a commissioned police officer. How does that compete with, actual teachers wanting to be able to take their own classrooms safety responsibly themselves? Is that something that has been brought up in the Maricopa Unified School District?
We have not talked about that in our school district. I know that's part of a national debate, and
Yes.
I know some states, like the state of Utah, do allow that. My personal opinion is that teaching is such a demanding job that I don't think that's something I am in favor of, and I don't think that's something I want teachers to be worried about. I think the safety comes from having a good plan, good relationship with the local police department, the school resource officer, and that kind of thing. So I would not be in favor of arming teachers.
It's a good, very interesting argument you got there. And like you said, it is a national debate, and on a state level, we had Representative Smith in here, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he said that that's not something that's on the very near forefront, but it's something that the legislature is talking about, potentially passing down in years to come. So
Well, and we see people come in and train every day of the week, and we have very new people coming in and training. Everybody starts somewhere, right? We have folks that have been around it forever. We have, former military and law enforcement come in. We have active folks come in, and there's all different types and levels of training out there. But, what's curious to me is I have one child to take care of, and you have a classroom full of 25 kids, and then you're responsible for their safety and you're wielding a gun. To me, that is going to require a significant amount of qualification and training that I don't know that most teachers are capable of doing.
and
And I don't want to be insulting in any way,
teachers,
because it's a huge responsibility.
But if you look at the teacher's gone into the teaching profession to be a teacher, not to defend people with guns.
Right, not to be a security guard.
Absolutely.
Or security detail.
And it's something I've never come across coming from the UK. Obviously, we don't have armed anything at home. Let alone
You have sticks.
we don't even have sticks. We have pointy sticks from time to time.
Well, and I'm sure Dr. Chestnut would agree with me here. Is if you had a firearm in the classroom, the children are going to know
and
that
be
the
super
teacher
curious.
has a gun, and if they don't have guns at home with their parents, and they've not been trained or taught how to shoot, they're going to be ultra curious because of the video games and stuff like that. So they're going to find a way to find out where that gun is. So the safety, if you put firearms in the classrooms, they would need to be under lock and key, heavy lock and key, right? And then how's the teacher going to get to the gun should the situation arise without fumbling, looking for a key or remembering their combination? I mean, that whole thing. Is that part of your argument, Dr. Chestnut?
Well, it is, and I think teachers are some of the smartest people around, and they're extremely capable. But yes, to take on that level of responsibility to carry a firearm, I mean, police spend a lot of time on that issue and knowing how to handle a firearm properly, and that's what gives me great comfort in knowing that they are there and that they're providing that level of protection. But I wouldn't feel the same way if teachers were armed, with all due respect. I mean, they are still, no matter what, going to be concentrating on the classroom, as they should be, very much so. I mean, and there's obviously horror stories in the news. I mean, there was a teacher in Utah last month, and she had a gun, and state law up there, allowed her to carry a concealed weapon, and the gun went off, in the restroom, and she shot herself in the foot and that kind of thing. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens when teachers have guns, and I'm not in favor of adding that level of danger and complexity to our schools.
Yeah, it's a very, very good argument. Actually, I forgot where it was. I just saw this on the news. It was on CNN or something yesterday, where there was a snake on the football field, and a teacher had a gun on campus and shot at the snake, and ultimately got arrested for bringing a gun, not only bringing a gun to school, but firing around on school property at a snake that was on the field. And she got arrested because it wasn't allowed. So
I would have shot the snake. I would have shot the snake big time. I'd continue to shoot it.
And the report doesn't, I guess the police in that city didn't report whether or not she hit the snake. So she got arrested for firing a gun on school property, which it's just silly. It's a snake.
And the snake slithered away, unharmed.
So Steve, in regards to school safety, I'm sure a lot of our listeners and other people around Arizona, watched the news when there was a report of a firearm brought on campus in the Maricopa Unified School District. Could you talk a little bit about that and maybe about the resource officer response time and how you got it handled and everybody was safe and no one was injured?
Sure, yeah, that was a scary thing. It happened last spring at Desert Wind Middle School. It was pretty well reported in the press, and I can share the information that was reported in the press. Last year, we only had one school resource officer in the district, and he was located at Maricopa High School. This year, because of grant funding and a partnership with the city of Maricopa, we do have 2 additional officers, like I said. But last year, there was not a school resource officer at that school, but students came and reported to the principal that there was a rumor that a student had a gun, and they had the name of that student. And so that's one thing I'm actually proud of, that our students understand safety issues and they do report them. And so, of course, the school immediately went into lockdown, and the student was located, and it had a happy ending. We found the gun on campus, and good news was that the bullets didn't match the gun, and there's some question whether the gun would even work, even if it did have the proper bullets. And we don't know exactly why the student had the gun at school. We don't think it was with any malicious intent. It was to get it to work after school or something like that. But it was still scary, right? And the student, was expelled and that kind of thing. But I guess I was proud of the fact that a student reported this, that our safety plan was followed. We went into the lockdown, and the police responded in very short order and helped us evacuate the school and the students and resolve it. So, even though you would prefer those things don't happen at all, I think it had an outcome that was acceptable, and that's something we hope doesn't happen again this year. And I'm proud of the student for reporting it.
Very happy ending in that regard, and you had mentioned it earlier is having the resource officers engage with the students. There wasn't one at that school, but the students were well trained on safety and knowing what was right and what was wrong. And I think even the youngest of children knows when their safety could potentially be in jeopardy. And so reporting it was definitely key. And now, like you had mentioned, given grant funding and a partnership with the City of Maricopa Police Department, there are 3 resource officers, which is ultimately super important. And that's something that we really teach people at Caswells, is to educate your children on firearm safety. Children should know that it's not okay to bring a gun to school. They shouldn't have the super curiosity factor. There are parents that have guns that choose not to teach their kids how to use them, and that's unfortunate. I have kids in my house, and my girlfriend's 2 young ones, and they know that you don't touch the firearms unless we are out at a shooting range or in the desert, and there's adults around to supervise. You don't go searching around the house for guns, and ultimately you don't take them out of the house or touch them when there's not adults around. So other students that were educated in that regard or had that safety mentality were the ones that probably, I'm not saying that they did or they knew, but they knew that it was wrong, and I'm assuming that's why they had reported it, and the situation was, taken care of with a super happy ending. So,
but does anybody think there's room for, or whether it would be a good idea to have some kind of gun safety training within schools?
No,
I
that's
don't.
very interesting.
I don't think that would be right, but
well, we teach it.
I was going to say that's an interesting question. 2 years ago, we have a local gun club, and they did, as a community service, provide some information after school hours to kids and families on gun safety, which I thought was a good idea. I don't, our curriculum day is so jam-packed that, I don't honestly think that's one thing that we could take on, but I do appreciate community efforts to provide safety education information.
And is that something that you can elaborate? Are you allowed to talk about your protocol if there is a threat on campus? We don't want to notify the bad guys of what your plan is,
Sure. Yeah, I certainly can't talk about the details of the plan, but we have a very detailed emergency response plan that covers a variety of scenarios. We have required drills at every school that happen every year, and we try to prepare for different situations. And that's pretty standard across the country, across the state, and there is a emergency response plan requirement by the state of Arizona, and we're in compliance with that, and we continue to try and work on it, make it better all the time. We have a good relationship with Pinell County Emergency Management. We did a tabletop safety training exercise a year before last, and we try and do those every couple of years so that we kind of refresh our skills as administrators and leaders of this. So we're always working at it and trying to get better at it.
Now, we're obviously huge supporters of this, and I have kids, and we have lots of friends that have kids that are in the shooting sports. And there's one particular girl that we all know about. Her name is Cheyenne, and she's 10 years old, and she shoots competition. Obviously her parents are very involved in the sport, and they feel comfortable with their children using firearms. And she practices probably about 15 hours a week. And she's really good. She started when she was 7, which I think is really interesting. I want to expose my child at a very young age the safety rules, because he's around it. We own and operate a gun store and a shooting range. So, that for me is in the forefront of my mind. But to see other parents with their children encourage them in the shooting sports, is that something, I know that some schools, and obviously the law revolves around that you can have firearms if you're participating in a school program that is part of the shooting sports for competition. But is that something that the Maricopa Unified School District would be interested in doing? How do you feel about the kids at the schools being part of an activity like that, where they are very familiar with firearms and they shoot competitively, and they are around it a lot, and then they have obviously their friends, and they're in the classroom, and kids are going to talk about all of this stuff? And is that something that you guys are prepared to deal with, or have you already?
I'm not aware of any organized shooting sports in Maricopa, and no one's ever talked to me about that. I understand that kids are involved in a variety of activities, and many of them we don't offer. Like, we don't offer ballet, and we don't offer, rodeo, and many activities that some of our kids are involved with. Karate, we don't offer that kind of stuff. And so typically with those kinds of activities that, aren't exactly widespread and aren't sanctioned by the Arizona Interscholastic Activity Association, those kinds of things, interscholastic sport, then we try and be cooperative. We try to help. I mean, for example, we just finished a elementary golf program, and it was an after-school thing, and it was a company that came in and just basically provided some group lessons to students, and it was something we cooperated with them on to make available to our students after school. So, we try and work with people that are interested in providing activities for kids, and we've always done that, and we'll continue to do that.
No, and Carol Ann, to your point, there's no shooting range in Maricopa, so I don't think that would work out. Oh,
well, yeah, that's true, too. I think of the archery classes as well, and the law, because we're always trying to keep abreast of what is appropriate, and we get asked questions all the time, and what is appropriate. Do you need a note from your mom that says you can have a firearm on campus grounds because you're participating in a competitive shooting program that's associated with the school? And the answer is yeah. So it's interesting as we talk about this stuff. And Dr. Chestnut, I really appreciate you being so open and honest with us about your opinion and what should happen in the school district. And you have a wealth of experience, not just, you say only 3 years, but 3 years is a long time when you're, the top administrator at a school district. I can't imagine the things that you must deal with. You're certainly a much better person than I am. And then from, Washington as well. They're going through some interesting gun law changes up there. And, obviously the whole country is up in arms about the gun legislation. And so it's always an interesting topic, because you don't just start out learning about guns when you're 40. It's part of our society. It's part of all the movies. It's part of video games. And it starts out really young. And it's scary for us as parents, I think, to know that, number one, I don't think parents take as much responsibility as they should for their own kids' education. And, there's a huge responsibility laid at the feet of the administrators and the teachers, to be able to provide that kind of education for the kids when it really should start at home. So I think you guys do a really great job.
They do a good job over there. And Dr. Chestnut, if you could talk a little bit about, excuse me, your anti-bullying and stuff and what you guys have done, because I think ultimately bullying is what leads to children making the decision to harm another student with either a knife, pepper spray, gun, whatever they choose to bring to school to harm the student that could be bullying them. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And maybe just to back up kind of that previous comment and just to kind of paint the whole picture of, what a school day is like, a typical school day for kids. I try to visit classrooms regularly. I'm in somewhere, it depends on the year. Some years 100 classrooms, some years 200 classrooms. I walk around schools with principals and try and see the teaching and learning process as it's going on, and I spend a lot of time in schools. So, I think it's important to remind listeners that, our schools are very well ordered, and I've been in a lot of schools across the state of Arizona in the last, 3 years, and everywhere I go, it's really the same thing. There's a focus on teaching and learning, good classroom discipline, and, our schools are well ordered and well run, and
Absolutely.
Students are learning. That's kind of the bottom line, which is the good news. Mm-hmm. But, at the same time, schools, playgrounds, kids will be kids, and there are going to be problems, and bullying is a good example, that's really where school safety, I think, starts and has to start. You got to make sure that you have a culture that is very positive and does not permit or allow bullying. And when it does happen, because we know that's kind of natural behavior by kids, that you have a plan to deal with it. And so we work hard on that, and I think our principals and teachers do a pretty good job of following through on that.
And to be quite honest, I live in Maricopa, obviously, and I don't hear a lot about incidents at MUSD schools. It's, they're good kids in Maricopa, and you guys do a fantastic job, not only educating them, but keeping the schools safe, and that's in my personal opinion, and obviously in yours, and keep up the good work is what I would say.
Oh, thank you.
I live just around the corner from a school. I don't know which one it is. I've got no idea. It's at the end of my road. And I have no problems, no hassle, no grief. In the UK, it's just massive grief if you're anywhere near a school. But we don't. I don't even know they're there. No, not even. No grief whatsoever. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and
it's totally different here.
You want it to be this incredible, awesome learning experience for your child, to have the whole universe open to their learning experience, to open every door to support and encourage and build confidence. And that doesn't start just from one person or come from one area. It's, it takes a village to raise a kid, right? So it's the parents, it's the teachers, it's everybody else in the community, it's the law enforcement, it's everybody taking part in this. And, we live in Arizona, so we have very lenient firearm laws here. It's one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the best reasons to be here. But there's always a safety concern. Most gun owners and most gun people get a bad reputation because of the way the media sensationalizes these opportunistic events. And, we're all very responsible. We want to teach people. We want to educate people. And we're hoping that the kids have that same type of environment and are being encouraged to learn about these things and to be responsible and to act responsibly and safely, not just around firearms, but in every aspect of life, especially with regard to bullying or anything like that. So,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more.
And Dr. Chestnut, real quick, I'll just put in a plug. You guys, the Maricopa Unified School District has an override measure on the ballot this November. I voted early, and I voted yes for it. If you could talk a little bit real quick while you're on the radio about what you guys are potentially going to use that money for if the override passes. I just give you the plug there.
Oh, sure, yeah. November 4th ballot's coming right up. We have a 5% override on the ballot. It's a 7-year proposal. It would provide funding for 3 projects. The first would be 22 additional teachers. We have large class size, larger than we'd like, and that would help us. The second thing we'll need would be about 3 additional support staff, secretary, custodian. When you add 22 teachers, that's quite a few. They need a little support help. It could be a tech person. It would not be administration, but 3 additional support staff, so that'd be the second thing. And then the third thing the funds would be used for would be for instructional technology. The state does not fund instructional technology, computers, the infrastructure that we need, and we need to continue to invest in technology to keep those tools current for our students. So we're not going to be cutting edge in technology, but it'll allow us to continue to replace computer labs when they need replacing and that kind of thing. So we think it's a modest proposal. We're competing against Kyrene Elementary School District. They have a 15% override, and Tempe Union High School District has a 10% override in place. So we're trying to be competitive, and we think this will help us.
Absolutely, and at 5%, I believe it is pretty modest.
It's pretty modest, yes. Costs the average homeowner $5 a month in the city of Maricopa.
Which is well worth it, I think, for our children's education.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Chestnut, thank you, sir. We're going to go to break.
I'm looking at Paul like, you better vote yes.
Thanks again for being here, sir. Much appreciated. Very enlightening, and lots of great information. And like I mentioned before, keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you, Steve. It's been nice to speak to you, and we'll speak to you again sometime soon, no doubt.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think we're going to a break.
We've got a break. Make something happen. Oh, you're a good man.
Have some fun. I'll see you when you get back, but I'll be up all night, still cleaning this gun.
Caswells, Mesa's premier air-conditioned indoor shooting range, has the largest selection of firearms and accessories in the East Valley. Highly trained, friendly staff instruct classes for any level, women and beginners included. Visit Caswells.com or come in just off US 60 in Stapley. You're listening to the Double Wide Network, where you can host your own radio show. If you're looking for a way to get out your message, welcome to the future. Dave Pratt's Double Wide Network offers you the opportunity to use our state-of-the-art studio to create your very own radio show. Our experienced and helpful production staff will help you every step of the way. Our free mobile app allows your listeners to take your show with them and play it live or on demand. Even if you're not in Arizona, we've got you covered with Skype technology so you can broadcast from anywhere in the world. Whether you're in it to grow your business, make a statement, deliver a message, or just have fun hosting your own show, the Double Wide Network can make it happen. The Double Wide Network always has your show ready to go. For more information, just visit us at doublewidenetwork.com.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
As long as I live.
As long as I live.
Several of us were working to rescue a family.
The house collapsed on top of the cellar door and trapped them.
We had to use Humvees and heavy machinery to move massive trees and debris.
We got them out.
We helped a lot of people out.
It felt good to know I could really make a difference.
Because I'm a citizen soldier in the National Guard.
Be there the moment your community needs you. Learn more at NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the Arizona National Guard. Aired by the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
And welcome back. What another fantastic guest. Thank you, Bridger. Bridger gets all our guests for us. Very, very clever guy.
There's a lot more to come. I think next week we're going to have Christine Jones.
Yes, she's confirmed now, isn't she? I believe.
She is confirmed.
Fantastic.
And then we have the Pinal County Attorney Lando Voiles on November 17th.
I'm super excited
and we're going
about
to have Congressman Matt Salmon. I don't have a date confirmed for him yet, but we're going to have him coming up shortly as well.
Nice. You're a genius, Bridger. You know that.
Thanks,
absolute
man.
genius. What can I say?
We don't have to do anything. It's awesome.
we just sit and talk about shit.
I know. All the listeners like, I wish Carol Ann would just shut up. Stop rambling.
No, I've never heard anybody say that ever. Ever.
I'm going to say fuck you right now.
Oh, you really? Are you going to say it in a minute, or are you just going to say it now?
I just said it right now.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough then.
Thank you.
No problem.
Let's talk about that topic we're talking about off
Josh
air.
wasn't ready.
I wasn't.
With the button.
I wasn't. I'll find the beep again.
Fantastic.
I want to talk about what we were talking about off air, because that's an interesting subject to me. You brought it up, Bridger, so I'll let you bring it up again.
I did. There was a bank robbery that got foiled after the suspects came out of the bank. It was at Desert Schools, and what I had read, this is what I read. Obviously, I didn't talk to the police or anything, but what I read was that the car pulled up, two dudes jump out, run inside the bank. Somebody saw that the car was idling in front of the bank and went to the jewelry store next door and told them. Somebody from the jewelry store, I believe it was reported, came out and took the keys out of the suspect's vehicle because it was running, Suspects come out of the bank with trash canisters full of cash that they'd collected from inside the bank, and the individual, somebody that was there, took the keys out, or whatever, and shot the suspect. It's reported that they're not necessarily sure. They weren't sure yesterday whether it was the person's gun or one of the suspect's firearms, but the police are still trying to determine whether or not that individual was justified in shooting the bank robber.
But see, to me, this is what I was saying during the break. To me, if you're going to go off and you're going to raid a bank or whatever, what was it, credit union, if you're going to go off and raid that, then whatever happens to you in the commission of that crime is whatever happens to you. You know, if somebody shoots you to stop you taking that money away, or because you're because you're doing that,
isn't there also the weight of the world on the person who thinks that it's their obligation to stop the bank robbery, whether it's taking the keys or exchanging gunfire? The person who's trying to stop it is also obligated to start thinking about it. Yeah. What if he shoots at the suspect, hits the suspect, but travels through the suspect? Now it's traveling into the wall if it's a high caliber, handgun. And now you got to worry about collateral damage. Is there someone on the other side of that wall, someone that was in the bank? Is there any other,
I agree.
What's behind the person that he's getting shot at?
I would agree with that. But that's a different question as to whether you should actually shoot the guy who's committed the robbery.
Well,
I agree. One's a safety issue and one's a legal issue.
And so I've been a firearms instructor for 13 years. And one thing that I'll always tell students is that if you are going to use your gun to defend somebody or something, it better be a loved one. Because the justice octopus, like we call it in class, the tentacles go everywhere. So you decide you are going to protect the bank's money and draw your firearm and shoot a suspect and take their life over a trash can full of cash. Now you just put your family in jeopardy. You put your finances in jeopardy because that person's family can sue you, and you might not be found justified, and you end up in jail. It's better off to think before you act. Now, if Carol Ann and I are walking to the parking lot and some guy draws a knife on her, am I going to shoot the guy? Absolutely, because she's a loved one to me. If I see somebody running out of a bank with a big bucket of cash, am I going to draw my gun and shoot him? Probably not. Would it be a good citizen-like thing to do? Yeah, but the bank is insured. Their money's insured. These people are going to run. They're going to get in their car, leave it to law enforcement. You call 911, law enforcement goes and arrests them, and they're good to go. Now you don't have to deal with all the ramifications of what you just did. And you brought up a good point in saying, what if the person's not a good shot? What if they hadn't practiced with their new gun and they shoot and miss and hit a 5-year-old girl coming out of the hair salon that's next door?
What if the suspect returns fire? They're hit as they're returning fire, and now they turn into oncoming traffic if they're have a high caliber rifle or whatever. And by you guys as instructors, you guys know what the definition of justifiable homicide is, right? Is that
there's
by definition?
There's several different ways, to be justified, and it's you use force necessary to stop the force that's coming onto you. If you feel that your life is in jeopardy, you are absolutely justified to use a firearm. There's disparity of force and whatnot. If a guy's running out with a trash can full of money, is your life in danger? You put your life in danger if you jump in front of that person.
Yeah.
If you take the keys out of their car, guess what you just did? You just put yourself in jeopardy.
See, now that would be my big argument as to why they may or may not, and I know we don't have all the facts right now, whether or not they determined if it was justified. But that would be my thought, whether it was the person who pulled the keys out of the car or not. Let's say they're coming out, they're armed, they don't know what they're walking out into. You're walking with a loved one or a friend, and they just happen to come out, wrong place, wrong time, and of course, holding onto the weapon, they fan. They're turning to their vehicle.
Sweep everybody. Yeah.
Exactly. They're not firing the weapon, but they sweep. Does that justify? Because you don't know what's going on. You just see some weirdo carrying whatever with a firearm, and he's swinging it at you.
Okay, so that is a gray area, and we talk about that in class all the time. Gray area. It's gray for a reason because you don't know. Just like we don't know if the guy's going to be justified or not. That being said, when the individual took the keys out of the suspect's car, they ultimately, the one guy got shot. The other guy went and carjacked a lady in a car at gunpoint right behind him. So not only taking the keys out of the car and him ultimately killing a guy, the other guy went and carjacked a lady who was an innocent bystander.
And then fled the scene and damaged a whole bunch of other stuff on his way out.
So now, in layman's terms, the way you're describing with the legal tentacles that can go everywhere, that guy that returned fire or opened fire, because I don't know if they had shot at him, is now responsible for what happened to the suspect and possibly could also be linked to the carjack victim and any other damage.
Sure, it causes a chain of events.
Chain of events.
And I will tell you this much. This is all my personal opinion, and what I think is that young lady's insurance company, that her auto insurance company, that the car crashed and hit and all that, they're going to do their own investigation. And when it comes down to an individual being a like vigilante justice and going and taking the keys out of the car, they're going to find that person. I'm pretty certain that he's going to end up getting sued.
Yeah, and that that's one of the things that is really hard for folks to understand. That, and I'm going to ask Bridger to talk a little bit more about this. But when you have something that you are protecting you're protecting yourself, a loved one, your own safety, there is always a civil suit after the fact.
Absolutely, always.
And we try to impress that upon our students. That we can talk about the thing with Bill Heath, the CCW guy, and the kid that came. He had just gotten out of the military. He was driving back from the mall, not in battle mind. He's not in the military. He had just gone shopping, and some guy, an older gentleman, probably middle age, mid 50s, I think he was. And I'm trying to recall this from memory. I wish I had the facts in front of me, but serious road rage problem. And this kid was trained by one of our instructors, Bill Heath, and rest in peace, he has passed away. An incredible individual, a lifetime of law enforcement history. And he taught this kid our CCW class, handed out a business card and said, you ever in trouble and you ever have to defend yourself, I want you to call me right away. So this kid hadn't done anything. Apparently he hadn't gone fast enough or didn't turn on a red light or anything. And the guy behind him, this middle-aged gentleman, had serious road rage. They come up to a light. Everybody's parked. There's like 16 other cars there. The middle-aged guy, gets out of his car swearing, I'm going to kill you.
Gun in hand.
Starts this kid now sees the guy in his rearview mirror marching up to his truck with a gun in his hand. And he said the first thing, he didn't even think about it. He was afraid. He crawled into the passenger seat. And then his military training kicked in. He said, what am I doing? I got to defend myself. And he had a Glock in his, I think it was a Glock. He had a handgun in his glove compartment.
They both had Glock 19s and the same ammunition.
It's funny.
Wow.
That's a coincidence. Very popular make, model. And by the time the kid had armed himself and turned towards where he thought the threat would be, the middle-aged gentleman was in his doorway, had opened the door of the truck and was pointing the gun at him, and the kid just fired 5 times. Boom, 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 right up the guy's chest and in his face. Kills him. Now the cops show up. Everybody's freaked out. Everything stops.
I think they held the guy for like 8 hours while they did the investigation and ended up releasing
They let him go because it was a clear case of self-defense. They had the traffic camera
and they
footage.
had all the witnesses.
They had all the witnesses and everything. And one of the things that Bill Heath had taught this kid was, regardless if you're justified or not, that family is going to sue you because you have taken that person away from them, and they're going to come after you for everything they got. So I'm going to ask Bridger to elaborate on what the rules are and what happens.
Well, in regards to to lawsuits or personal defense,
Both.
I mean, so you're usually going to get, well, what happened? The Trayvon Martin is probably a good example.
Yeah.
He was found to be justified after a trial, right? And then of course Trayvon Martin's family is going to sue him now, whether or not that lawsuit, he loses that lawsuit, that's up to the judge and jury, right? O.J. Simpson, prime example, got off with murder, but ended up he lost the civil suit and now had to pay whatever the judge decided he needed to pay. But that's how it works. You decide, you choose to use a firearm in personal defense, you are most likely going to get sued. And they teach that in class. There's been a lot of classes, not only that I've taught, that my dad has taught, that J.R. Roby, one of our instructors, has taught, to where people in class, I remember the first CCW class that I sat in on was J.R. Roby's class. And I actually had second thoughts about carrying a gun on my person after I left that class because of the responsibility that falls with carrying a firearm.
I did too. I took the same class, JR, 2006. And I left that class thinking, I don't know that I want to do this. So, I mean, it's a very scary thing when you truly realize what your burden is, what your risk of your responsibility is.
And there's only one state, just to talk about personal property real quick, there's only one state in the United States, I believe, that you can use lethal force to defend personal property, and that's in Texas, where the individual shot the two gentlemen that were, I used gentlemen, I can't believe I said that, the two people that stole from his neighbor's house. 911 dispatcher tells him, don't chase him, and then he's heard on the phone going, stop, bam, bam, shoots him with a shotgun. In Texas, that's legal. In Arizona, that is not legal. You cannot defend personal property in Arizona unless there's some sort of a force disparity and you feel like your life is in danger. So Carol Ann's at home with the baby, husband's out of town. Now, Carol Ann is not, she's a force to be reckoned with, but that being said, she's still...
The disparity of force thing works in my favor, you know.
She's still a woman, right? And so she's at home. Guy breaks into the house, and he's going to steal the television set and a stack of money in a purse that's on the counter, whatever, that he saw by creeping through the backyard. So he
steal my stuff.
He breaks into the house.
The language.
He happens to have a knife on him, but he's not wielding it. He's a larger gentleman, and breaks in. Carol Ann sees him. Is she justified to shoot him? Absolutely, because there's a disparity. Could that individual, that large man, take over Carol Ann and potentially kill her? Plus, he has a knife in his pocket. Yeah, absolutely. There's a disparity there. Now, if it's a big guy and another big guy, or if a man-on-man situation to where a guy comes in and wants to steal my cash and I'm there alone, I'm probably not justified to shoot him. But am I justified to threaten lethal force? Absolutely. I draw my gun. You take an aggressive stance, draw your gun, and say, "Get out of my house right now." Now you have the upper hand. You have your gun out. It's pointed at this person. I would say 9 times out of 10, just speculating, they would leave your house.
Right. But if they continue to advance and your life is in danger,
you use lethal force.
Correct.
It's better be alive than face potentially a jury than be dead and have your family deal with it later.
Well, we saw this thing on Facebook, or went all over the internet on the YouTube, where that woman had that nanny cam, and this guy beat the crap out of her. Just beat the ever-loving shit out of her. And it was on film. And all she does is and her 18-month-old is sitting on the couch there. And it happens for several minutes. It is painful to watch. And what she says afterwards in the news interview is, I just didn't want him to hurt my baby. There's a 3-year-old sleeping upstairs, I think. And I just wanted him to leave. And not the anger... the sheer rage of thinking that, lady, you could have defended yourself. Like, you could have done something. And she let him beat the crap out of her just so he would leave.
It's unfortunate.
There's trained and then there's untrained.
Correct. And, that's part of that thing is on our education side is what we want to try to empower people and help them understand that we're not out to help you build your confidence to take lethal force, like to do it on purpose, just to go around and flex your muscles and stuff. Like, you don't have to feel like a victim is what we're trying to get at. You don't have to be a victim. You don't have to be a statistic. You have the right to defend yourself. And when we see and hear about things like that, it's very disturbing that, to think that I might be put into a situation where I would have to defend myself. Am I going to be able to do it? I hope so. I don't know. I hope so.
And you hear that all the time in having conversations with folks. There's something on the news. I'd have pulled my gun and I'd have shot that person.
I would have done this. I would have done that.
If you've ever, I've never been in the situation, but if you've ever been in the situation, there's, you almost go blind. You go deaf. You ask somebody how many shots they fired. They're 2. Well, no, you emptied your magazine, dude. Like, did you not realize that you shot 17 rounds? No, it seemed like only 2 rounds. And it's because of what happens to you. You have an adrenaline dump, and your vision goes dim. And there's actually, I'm not sure of the company, but they teach a class on being put in that particular situation. And so you can't Monday morning quarterback a shooting person or a person who didn't take the action because you've never been in that situation to begin with. But the people who are trained and the people who have personal safety and safety of their family and loved ones at the forefront of their minds at all times, those are the individuals that will act when required or when necessary.
And we saw that a lot. I heard that a lot with the Colorado theater shooting. You have a whole movie theater full of people, and this guy just opened fire. And you hear afterwards, I would have never let that happen. At the Batman premiere, and it's really hard for us to recreate a scenario that causes people to have that type of adrenaline dump and to have that type of fear and force them to react. We have computer scenarios and simulators and things like that help us, try to, have the unexpected jump, and people have to defend themselves, and they shoot an actual Glock, but it's fitted with a laser at a computer screen that's life size. And, so this is really, it's about as close as we can get, but you never know how you're going to react.
And that being said, we had talked about a couple weeks ago, and arming the public and having citizens that are armed is a really, really good thing, because it gives more opportunity for people to react and to potentially stop a lethal situation. We had a situation in Tucson with Gabby Giffords. If there'd have been somebody there who had a sidearm who was willing to protect the lives of innocent people being slaughtered around them, there would have been deaths still, because they have the criminal has the upper hand. But that being said, that a lot of lives could have been saved. So that's why we're proponents of arming people and having them be trained and know when they can and cannot use lethal force or threaten lethal force.
And it's very difficult to think in a scenario like that. You have to practice. You have to train. You can't just get a gun and use it as a paperweight in your nightstand and expect to be able to perform if you need to. What Bridger's talking about is people exactly that way, that, some folks are going to look at us like gun nuts. That we're just a bunch of crazy people wielding our guns and shooting them into the air at night and whooping and hollering and drinking. And, it's not like that at all. But it is a serious responsibility that you have to take seriously, and you have to train for it.
Training is key.
And on that happy note.
Oh, I know. So serious.
I know. We're going to make it lighter next week, aren't we?
We have to, because of Guntoberfest.
It's Guntoberfest next week, so we're going to have a lighter show. Yay!
Well, we have Christine Jones. We're talking about Guntoberfest, and I think Paul has a couple of our suppliers or vendors lined up.
I've got the Oakley rep. He's going to be on the phone. I've got, who else have I got?
Benchmade.
Rick from Benchmade, he's coming on. I think I've got a guy who's doing laser engraving as well. I think he's coming on. Got some interesting people. We shall keep it light next week, light and airy.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great sale. We have literally thousands of dollars of product coming into the store over the next week. And
it's a list that I'd love to own.
We're going to be doing some serious store-wide discounts, membership discounts. We're shooting at a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, we've got bulletproof vest to shoot at, the whole 9 yards.
I'm kind of excited to see how you guys set that up.
We are too, actually.
Paul's been talking about it left and right.
Absolutely.
How can we pull the bullet out and give it to him after?
We're working on that.
He asked me, we have this huge, it's like a dummy that you use for baton practice, and it's on like a big sand weight. And he asked me if we could shoot at that. I said, no!
But I can't find a volunteer.
I know.
Now, homeless people keep saying no. I've offered them burgers and all sorts. We're not interested.
You just need to get another body dummy and go by way of Mythbusters. Just name it Buster and just shoot at it with the vest on.
We need to get a mannequin, I think.
I think what we need to do is get one of those like actual zombie targets that bleeds when you shoot it, and then you put the vest on, and you can show that the zombie is not bleeding after hitting the vest to show that the bulletproof vest actually works.
That is a great idea, Bridger.
I think I know a special effects guy that could help you.
Yeah.
Aha.
Yeah.
What you want? We can shoot at you.
No, you're dead. No.
Oh,
I'm really beginning to not trust you with firearms around me at this point.
I asked first. Half a chance.
Polite English. You always ask.
Here, let me see if this fits you. Blam!
See how you look in this.
That's why you don't have firearms in the UK.
Correct.
Spot a tea before I beat you.
Spot a tea, yeah. Spot a tea before I eat you with this. Eat you with me baton, me old mucker.
So next week you guys have Guntoberfest. You have another great guest and a few surprises for everybody about Guntoberfest.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. If you want to get on the newsletter, drop me an email to paul@radiocaswells.com.
Awesome.
There you go. And more details through the week.
Well,
might
all right.
be some
I think
special offers.
works.
Might even be some special offers just through the newsletter. You never know.
We like doing that,
I like
doing Facebook only or newsletter only, just to kind of see what kind of response
So
we get.
we plan a long way ahead. So around about Friday afternoon, we'll work out what the offers are for Saturday.
Just enough of a tease for everybody.
You know, it's so terrible, but flying by the seat of our pants is...
It's working for us.
It is... You know what? I like it. I perform well under pressure. If we have plenty of time to plan stuff, it just doesn't go as well.
But leave it...
Staying in the moment.
Can we possibly leave a bit earlier next? Can we leave a bit earlier next week?
Maybe.
Just a little bit earlier.
I still didn't finish everything I needed to finish.
No.
Well, it's time to go anyway.
It is.
I know.
It is.
There used to be
we need a 2-hour show.
We do. I was speaking to Josh about that. Anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, we can talk out.
We can do
there.
that. We can do that. Yeah,
definitely.
You know, all the listeners like, oh God, she's going to talk for 2 hours.
Just the listeners.
Hey, you never know. Some of the listeners could be, oh yes, she is going to talk for 2 hours.
I would like to think that, but I highly doubt. That's not how
it
my
could
life
be the
works.
Carol Ann
Josh.
hour and then the Bridger hour. Only question is who goes first.
Bridger,
I can go first because then when Carol Ann starts, I can leave.
I think on that note,
because it's Friday.
I think on that note, we're going to end the show. You guys got anything else you want to say before?
I think we're just about there. I'm there.
Huge shout out to Dr. Chestnut. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's a wealth of information. Super proud of the work that he's doing. Thank you, Bridger, for having him on here and all the other guests that you've coordinated. And thank you, Paul.
Absolutely.
Paul, thank you so much also for doing the
problem.
range upgrade to touchscreen this week.
That
Because
nearly
not
killed
only
me,
is
I
the
swear.
sales manager, he's also maintenance
and welding.
and
To a
welding.
touch screen?
Yeah.
They're
We
all
got
touchscreen.
to get off air so we can talk. I
Okay.
just want to know that he managed it. That's impressive to me.
He actually did the electrical and
No, I did it. I actually did it.
Yeah. Till 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday night.
That's why I look this old. I'm only 26.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Caswell's Shooting Show. For more info, just go to Caswell's Radio Show on the DoubleWideNetwork.com. Listen live worldwide every Friday at 4 p.m. and then on demand 24/7 as we shoot to thrill with Paul Abella and Carol Ann Ferguson. Caswell's Shooting Range.